Hey sis, and welcome back to the Sisters Podcast. We're your host. I'm Lois.
I'm Anna.
Today we're going to talk about motherhood and what it has taught Anna. So Anna, I'm excited to hear about your experience and maybe even glean some advice for the future. I really wish that more women would be willing to talk about or even have the platform to be able to open up and be honest about this life-changing experience, because I feel like it's nowhere near talked about enough.
And I feel like if we do hear about it, people will be like, oh, motherhood's so hard. Or motherhood's such a blessing. And it's like, yes to both, for sure. But it's more of spoken about in generalities and not specifics, if that makes sense. So we're going to dive into some specifics today. So if you don't know me, my daughter was born a little over a year ago, like we talked about in the past few episodes. I had a very hard time postpartum, especially those first few months, which we also talked about in previous episodes. I've been pretty open about that, especially if you follow me on social media. It's not necessarily anything that I'm shy about, especially at this point. I also talked about it in detail last week with mental health. So we're just going to kind of go through some things like my experience and some things that I have learned. Especially I was telling Lois, like I feel like I've come out of like a fog state of mind. Like I feel more like myself than I have in a long time. So that's kind of where all of this is coming from today. Being able to think clearly.
In the words of Anna, she got her pink back.
Yeah, which is why I'm wearing my pink pants today.
Except a better pink even. Tell her what your husband said, because I think it's sweet.
So I was telling him the other night, I was like, you know, Michael, I feel more like myself than I have in a year and a half, 2 years, like pre-pregnancy. And now she's a year old. So you can do the math if you're smarter than me. And I was just like, I feel like more like myself than I have ever been. And I was like, what do you think? Like, do you think I'm back to normal? Like, what do you think? He was like, no, I think you're more than normal. Like, I feel like you've become an even better version of yourself. And I was just like sitting there thinking like, that's motherhood. Like, it's been so refining, but I feel like I've just learned and grown so much. And so, yeah, that was that.
I love that.
It was very sweet.
That is sweet. Oh, such a precious moment. Okay, Anna, I'm going to let you just take it away.
All right. So I think we're going to focus on things that motherhood has taught me about God specifically, because it's been through motherhood I've learned even more about him. You know, I've always had a relationship with God, was raised in the church and all of that, but I feel like through motherhood, it has deepened my relationship with God and with his people, like through getting to, you know, things like this, getting to talk about it a bit more. And I think the biggest thing that I think about when I reflect on motherhood so far, which has only been a year, so I can't even imagine all the things I'm going to learn, you know, from here on out. It's that God knows me intimately. He truly sees every single one of our needs. It's a really, when you sit and think about it, it's a really special thing that the God of the universe knows you specifically. He sees you. I love Psalm 139. If you ever want a passage to read on repeat, I recommend Psalm 139. It's that one for me. And I want you to just listen to the first 6 verses. So Psalm 139, verses 1-6. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all of my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it. It's such a special thing that the Lord knows us. The Hebrew word for known in verse 1 is the same word that we see many times in the Old Testament for a husband knowing his wife. It's the most intimate knowledge that you can have about someone. God completely, without a doubt, understands every single one of us. There's nothing about us that surprises him, and there's no need that we have that he doesn't see, that he doesn't also want to take care of for us. I also love the phrasing in this verse, you hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. The word hem here means to bind, to besiege, like, yes, a military term, to confine. And at first glance, that doesn't sound comforting at all. But to him or besiege something is to completely and totally surround something. So thinking about that in the context of this verse, God completely surrounds us.
I've never thought about that before.
It's so good. No, he doesn't surround us to restrict us or like overtake us, not for any evil purposes, but he completely surrounds us with his love and his care.
That literally just gave me chills, Anna, because like the creator of the universe completely surrounds me personally, Lois Abigail Webster, and you personally.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that thought.
It's very personal. And I think a lot of times we think of God as like afar off, like I'm going to send a prayer up to God, but like God hems us in. He surrounds us. And especially when times are difficult, we face challenges, he's there, you know? The second thing that I think about, and this kind of goes with the first thing, the second thing I've learned about God is that he gives me what I need when I need it. Even when I'm frustrated by a constant no to prayers, he's going to take care of me. Even if it's not in the way that I thought it was going to go. You know, like I, as a person, am so selfish. Like, but every single day, God has sought out what's in my best interest. And he does that for you too. And motherhood, I've said this before, and I like if you've seen me write things about like motherhood and marriage, especially, motherhood is one of the two circumstances or seasons in my life that have taught me how truly selfish I am, marriage being the other, which is why I brought it up. But like when you have a tiny human being that's counting on you every single moment of every single day and night, you don't have a lot of room to be selfish. So although it's really hard, it's a really great thing that it's taught me. It's exposed about myself. Some of my, most sincere, constant prayers to God were about like our daughter's sleep specifically, because that was a really rough one for me. That and breastfeeding, that was also really rough for me in the beginning. And in the moment, there were so many things about each of those things that truly felt terrible. And although I knew it wasn't a reality, my brain had convinced me that I would never sleep again. I would never have my body back again. And I remember begging God specifically, please, 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 please just let her sleep 4 hours. Like I thought that 4 hours of sleep would change my life. And you know what? Some nights it did when it actually happened. But I remember, it not happening so many times. And then several months later, when things got a bit more manageable and I was sleeping longer and breastfeeding less, something in me just like kind of snapped. And I had such clarity on it. Like God knew what I needed. Like I thought that I knew what I needed. I thought I needed 4 hours of sleep. Who wouldn't think that? But no, what I really needed was to understand that God is the sustainer of my life and that he's going to fulfill my every single need, but I have to give myself to him. And now sitting here a year later, I just can't help but think about God's faithfulness and just talk about that. Motherhood's refining. I think I've said that like 3 or 4 times. It showed me parts of myself that needed to be removed. It was a painful process, but it helped me become not just a better mother, but a better servant of Christ too. I've been studying through Philippians. I think I mentioned that maybe in the last episode or the episode before that. But I was in Philippians 1 the other day, and verses 12 through 14 just really stood out to me. And before I actually read these verses, I just want to remind you of the context. So in Philippians 1, Paul is the one who's writing it, and he's currently in prison, maybe house arrest, but either way, he's in a sort of imprisonment. He's awaiting trial. His crime is preaching and speaking about Jesus Christ. We don't know exactly when Philippians was written, but we do know that it was during his 2-year-long imprisonment, and this letter of his is directly addressed to the church at Philippi. So, Philippians 1, 12 through 14. I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. So, a couple of things here. Paul reassures the Christians at Philippi that his imprisonment has made the gospel spread, which is always great news. certainly what was happening to him, physically being in prison and what had happened to him before, the various beatings, the mockery, and all of those things, that none of that was good. Surely there were times that he prayed to be delivered out of various situations. Maybe he prayed to be out of this one. We don't know it, but maybe he was met with a no from God. We know he was, later on in 1 Corinthians 12 for his thorn in the flesh. But throughout all of this, not only did God take such great care of him, God used his rough, terrible circumstances to further the gospel. May our lives be a reflection of the same, and not just his experiences spreading the gospel to non-Christians. It strengthened those people that were there. It says most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord because of Paul's imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word. So they saw his example and furthered the gospel that way as well.
Mhm.
It strengthened the actual church itself and non-believers. Like the newborn experience with our daughter was really hard for me. But if sharing that experience helps just one person out there, especially one mom, a new mom, and if it points you to Christ, then it's more than enough. And I would do it over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hard things often not only make us stronger, but it makes other people stronger when we're willing to share and be vulnerable.
Mhm.
And throughout this, I'm trying to soak in as much as I can over here. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
We mentioned at the beginning that you got your pink back. You're
Mhm.
Anna, but you're Anna better. You're a brighter pink even. So knowing what you know now and what you went through after having your baby and the postpartum that you went through and everything,
Mhm.
would you say that you would be a better version of Anna now if you hadn't gone through all of that?
Definitely.
Or would you be even able to appreciate everything you have now like you do?
I definitely would not be a better version of myself. I don't think that. And then, I don't think that it's hard to think about life without her. But I don't think that I would be as grateful now, having not gone through the hard beginning. And as another layer, I don't know if I would just, her and I have a bond that nobody else is ever going to have. And so I just think I don't even think that I would be as grateful for her, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
You know?
So what would you say to somebody who may be in it right now or
Mhm.
somebody who is going to experience it?
My first thought was it gets better. It really does. And some people really and truly have an amazing newborn experience, and it's not as challenging for them. They don't necessarily get thrown, mental issues with on top of, learning to care for a child. Of course it's going to be challenging when you're doing it for the first time regardless. But, so yeah, my first thought was it gets better for sure. And really just lean on God and lean on your people, because don't be like me and not ask for help. Because I think for me, a lot of it was well, I know how to get her to sleep. I'm with her all day, every day. I'm her source of food. The list goes on and on. I know all these things that I had such a hard time letting go. So I would say if you're going through it right now, really lean on God and really lean on your people. Because, chances are, especially if you have family close, they want to love and support you during this time, but far above that, God wants to love and support you during this time.
Sorry, didn't mean to get you off topic there.
No, you're good. Sometimes I think about the question and then I start talking, go off on a tangent, and I lose the question.
Oh, I do that all the time.
A lot of times I think about Ephesians 3:20 and 21. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. I think sometimes we read this verse as, God does far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, and that's going to be wonderful and perfect and good and amazing. But sometimes God exceeding our prayers and our thoughts does not look wonderful and perfect or amazing at first. Sometimes God doing more than what we ask or think is painful. But what glory he deserves for that and what good he's working for us. I think about Romans 8:28. Certainly every moment is not going to be good. That's not, the context or the gist of the verse, but certainly what he does through our seasons, our circumstances, our situations is going to be good.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes like not being at your highest high.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you wouldn't be necessarily as grateful for where you are now if you hadn't gone through the struggles.
Yeah.
And we've talked about even some of that with our gratitude episode of like different perspectives and everything throughout that.
Yeah, for sure.
What else have you learned, Anna?
I think also recognizing too, I think we just read Lamentations 3 in the last episode, but it's still important, so we're going to bring it up again. His mercy truly will meet me afresh every morning, and he's going to meet you afresh every morning. Lamentations 3:22 and 23, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Every single day, God is merciful to us. And, mercy, I think this is one of the things that y'all talked about, you and Lydia talked about. Mercy is not getting what we do deserve. We deserve death and punishment for what we've done to Jesus. And yet God sees us covered by that blood of his son who is innocent. So we become innocent when we should be guilty, and we are pure when we should be stained by what we've done. Every single morning, his faithfulness is great. When I mess up, I think back to the newborn phase, especially when my mind can't think clearly because, sleep was so poor the night before. When I'm running on empty, God is faithful to his people. He's faithful to us, and he's steady when life is not and life feels chaotic and crazy. And I think also what has helped me a lot, especially now that she's older, not necessarily as much in the beginning, but this is kind of something that I had heard people say when she was younger, and I kind of took it in, but kind of was like, you don't know what I'm going through type thing. But now I get it. Realizing that she's only this little for such a short period of time. Like my daughter only needs me in this way, this much for a few short years of her life. But I need God that way all the time. And I think that was a humbling thought to realize how much I needed God in this experience, but not just in this experience, but all the time. I'm never going to forget the hours upon hours of breastfeeding those first few months and losing sleep those first few months. My husband and I, and me more so because I was like the one that was physically feeding her, we were the sources of every single need that she had. And of course, she's just a year old. She still needs us to do a lot of different things for her, although she's becoming more independent than we can keep up with sometimes. But even still now, at a year, like she doesn't need us in the same exact way. Like she's learning independence, which is great, but it's like sad at the same time. But we too, if you'll kind of transfer that over, like we've learned how to be independent. And I'm talking about like we've learned how to be independent from God. And I didn't realize that I had kind of learned how to be independent from him until having her. Like at least for me, like I lied to myself and told myself, like I can do it on my own. I don't need help. I'm okay. I got it. And a lot of times, us, when we do that, it doesn't look like us directly saying, God, I don't need you. We're not ever going to say that. Most of us aren't, at least. That thought doesn't even cross our minds, but yet the way we live, our attitudes, we try to tell God and other people that we don't need any help. We got it. We can do it on our own. We're strong. We're independent. We're women. We can do it. But we don't. And in all of that, we lose our recognition of our true need for God. And so just all of this to say, like, may we never outgrow our need for God, in the wonderful seasons and in the really hard seasons. Like little tiny newborn babies, we are to rely on him to fulfill our every need. And without him, we're nothing. There's a verse in Psalm. I told you I was going to talk a lot about Psalms. There's a verse in Psalms that has carried me through really like a lot of like mental issues most of my life, especially in high school and in college, and like now being a new mother. In Psalm 27, verses 13 and 14, it says, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. So all of this to say, just especially in a season of hard new motherhood, it's easy to want to lose heart and to want to give up to make things easier or better. And like, at the end of the day, you have to do what serves you mentally as well. But ultimately, not giving up as a whole and understanding that as long as we continue living faithfully for Him, we will see His goodness in the land of the living, both here and in heaven one day.
And on the dependence thing, I kind of think about in scripture how we're told to become like little babes and how like little babes are fully dependent on their parents, on their caretakers. And we need to have that mindset more because we can be a rebellious teenager who's just like, oh, I don't need help from anybody else or anything like that. So going back into that mindset of we are truly dependent on our Father. Okay, a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, girl.
Switching kind of more from or less from the biblical side of things, because I feel like you've covered that completely. Just like some tips for motherhood. I saw you posted on social media, was it today or yesterday, about kind of like your daily routine.
Oh, yeah, I think that was this week, yeah.
You're like more like daily routine. And so balancing, you're a stay-at-home mom and you're married, obviously. You're also running a business. So balancing all of that, what tips do you have?
Oh, wow.
And also you can throw, this is like part 2 of the question, but you can throw it in there too because I feel like it'll come in. But how do you have time for personal Bible study in that too?
Yeah, okay, that's a big thing. So I'll do the personal Bible study first because I feel like all of the other things are supplemental to my life, if you will. Like my relationship with God is first, and then I think, in order, like it's my relationship with God, it's my husband, it's our child, and then it's, really it's Soul Shine, and then it's like I have, teacher resources I create that are not, sometimes they're biblical, sometimes they're not. So that's kind of the order I think of things, if you can follow that. So I think about like personal Bible study, especially in the beginning, was really hard. Really, and now reflecting back on it and how active she is, like I had way more time then than I realized. But I was so clouded down by what was going on mentally and the lack of sleep that I just didn't see it.
And also, I feel like you learn how to use your time more effectively as time goes on.
You definitely do. And like also, as she has gotten older, it's been easier to have more of a routine. Newborns don't have a routine. And you do what they do. But now that she has more of a routine, I would say for me, personal Bible study looks like in the mornings, I always make her breakfast and I make myself breakfast. So we usually just eat the same thing. And I'll bring it over to the table and she'll be eating and I'll be eating and I'll be studying while I'm eating. Especially for this season, at least, that is what's working best for us because she is so active and I'm chasing her all day, every day. So finding that quiet time in the morning to like set the day right, I have found really helps. And a lot of times too, if the day is especially busy, I felt guilty about this in the beginning, but if the day is especially busy, sometimes I will leave my Bible open on the dining room table and I will like revisit it later in the day, like when she's taking a nap or, when she's asleep at night. If I feel like there are times where you don't feel like you like gleaned enough or like you were as serious about studying as you wanted to be. So that's what I would say for that. And then in terms of balancing everything, I'm going to say that's hard. So hard. Even staying home. First of all, stay-at-home moms are underrated. Second of all, working moms, I am so impressed with you because I stay home all the time and there's still like a bajillion things to do. So I am thoroughly impressed, not oppressed. I'm thoroughly impressed by you, choosing to work outside the home and still like managing to get. I mean, you're probably listening to this thinking like, I don't get as much done as I want to. Well, none of us are ever going to get as much done as we want to. Yeah, anyway, I'm just really impressed by that. But I would say in terms of balancing everything, man, it's hard. I think it's a matter of prioritizing time though. Like especially I think about when she's awake. Well, first off, I should say, my husband is my priority, of course. Like my relationship with him is priority above her, but he is at work and I'm home with her. So that aside, of course, I'm chatting with him all day about things. And then when he comes home, like, we're catching up on whatever. But But with her, when she's awake, like I want to be intentional and like playing with her and hands on. And that's another thing. Like we talked about selfishness. Like I realized how much I scroll on my phone or whatever. So prioritizing her while she's awake is really important to me, and then making the most of the time while she's asleep. So she is still, of course, in a season where she naps during the day. And then her sleep at night is mostly predictable. So I can know, in order to be a happy, healthy, functioning human being, I can stay up this many hours after she goes to bed, and I can work on things like my business things, Bible study, all of that stuff during her nap time while my husband's at work. And then when he comes home, the priority is, really both of them. And then when she goes to bed, the priority is him. Does that make sense? That answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And you also posted on your post this week, you have a schedule like for cleaning and chores and whatnot, which I had never thought about, like cleaning the same rooms the same day of the week, every single week. So I was honestly blown away by that.
It has changed my life. And I will say that is one thing I did before having her, before we were even like trying for kids or whatever. Like once we moved into our own place, like when we first got married, of course, like the place we were living in was different. So the specific cleaning needs were different, but like highly recommend starting that now, especially if you don't have kids. That way, whenever you do have kids, it's a bit easier to kind of work things into there,
For those who didn't see the post, Anna posted that you clean like 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom a day?
Yeah, usually the bulk of my cleaning is Monday through Wednesday. Of course, the rest of the days I'm picking up random toys so I don't trip and fall and die, and like cleaning, like wiping down the kitchen, all that stuff. But like my like main tasks are Monday through Wednesday, and I usually do which we have carpet upstairs, so like vacuum on Mondays, and I clean I do a lot of laundry on Mondays is what I do. And then Tuesday is like our bathroom and bedroom. And every other week is her bathroom. And then rotating with the guest bath downstairs. And then Wednesdays are my big, like, I have a mop-cume, Tenneco. It's a mop vacuum. That's my big, like, mopping day. So, yeah. Anyway, but also I will say I'm pretty type A in the fact, if you can't tell,
Really?
I'm pretty type A in the fact that I'm, have a list for everything all day, every day. So that has helped a lot.
I didn't gather that.
No, I don't think anybody listening would know that.
Honestly, it's impressive. I strive to be as productive and put together as you. So.
I mean, I will say, though, I'm not always on it. So don't be fooled.
Well, you have a plan to be, so I love that.
I've
loved listening to this episode. You need to come talk to me every week because I'm loving this.
I love it.
Anything you want to add at the end as we're wrapping up?
I feel like I covered all of it. I think just one more note to say that if you are in little babyhood, like you've got like a less than like 6-month-old, it really does get better. And someday they're going to be staying with their dada, screaming, "Mama!" up and down the stairs while you're gone. And it's going to bring you joy. It's going to get a lot better. So
I love that.
All that to say, the heart is worth it.
So precious. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing your story with us and the ways that you've grown as a Christian through motherhood. I think it'll be beneficial to those. And also for those who don't know Anna, which after this, I feel like you know Anna more.
Yeah, you know me a little too well.
For those who don't know Anna, she is the most personable person ever. So if you are struggling, I know that I can say, reach out to Anna, and Anna will be happy to talk to you or just listen or give you scripture in any way that she can help. She will love to. And she shares little tidbits, like we mentioned at the end, on her social media of just like little advice or what she does and stuff like that on social media. So if you are looking for an influencer, let Anna be that, because
don't call me that.
She's going to hate that. I just said that. But like, seriously, I wish more people would look at Christian mothers or like Christian influences instead of these worldly influencers or influences. So I'm not saying this like, oh, like Anna's an influencer at all. Like I get icked out by that. But I just mean that in a way of like, Anna is truly living for Christ and doing well at it, and we should be looking at her for it. Imitate me as I also imitate Christ. I think it's what I think of when I think of Anna. I love that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I love Anna, and I'm excited to have one more week of her Q&A next week. Yay. So come back and listen next week. We love each and every one of you. We'll see you later. Bye, y'all.